Hi all, Kraken Latte here. As of this video, patch 9.2.5 and the Dragonflight pre-patch are on the horizon, both of which are packed with some juicy changes. Plus, it's nearing the end of the Shadowlands expansion. All of that combined has created an intense list of things that I want to get accomplished before the launch of Dragonflight, whenever that is. So, why don't I share what I'm working on with you? You just might be inspired. Or think I'm crazy. Both is good. Since that list is a bit intensive, I don't want to just rush through it, throw a list at you, and then leave you uninformed. Instead, I aim to give you tips on how to do what I'm doing. So, here's my mini-series on preparing for Dragonflight. Patch 9.2.5 is bringing in various game-changing features like instanced cross-faction play and cross-faction mailing. But one that I am seriously excited for is the welcome addition of poor and common gear to the Transmog system. Poor and common gear, better known as greys and whites, are the lowest quality types of gear that are in the game. The quirk that these two types have had since Transmog was added to the game in Cataclysm is that they are not transmoggable. You can't learn the appearances and you can't transmog over them when they are equipped. At first glance, that may not seem like a big deal because these are very, very low tier items that you'll commonly see in low-level zones or as mere vendor trash even in current content. But if you actually take the time to equip some of them and take a look, some are kind of neat. And while they aren't usually as flashy as the uncommon or higher quality gear, they have some nice looks, and not everyone wants to be flashy and fancy. Sometimes just a simple, common folk sort of look can be desirable. Not to mention that there are actually unique appearances that you could only get from these items. And what's more, while I do not know how they are going to handle what gear goes to what armor type, a lot of these are currently marked as armorless and unbound, meaning they do not bind on pickup or on equip, so they may even be moggable by all armor types. Of course, there are soulbound and armor-specific versions of these gear types too, so I imagine those will keep their assigned roles. With all that in mind, I am absolutely stocking up on all of the gray and white gear I can get my hands on. That way I can learn it all day one of the patch. As a collector, that will feel fantastic. So why don't we take a look at a few tips on getting and storing these items until 9.2.5 comes. Tip 1. Turn off auto-vendor add-ons. First things first, it's highly likely that you have an auto-vendoring add-on like me. There are many out there, and many have the same feature of automatically vendoring gray quality, or even white quality, items every time you speak to a vendor NPC. This does include gear. If you're wanting to stock up like me, I highly suggest that you turn these off so you don't miss anything unique. In my case, I just use the Auto Vendor Grays option that comes with ElvUI. To turn this off, open ElvUI, go to the Bags tab, then to the Vendor Grays tab, and disable it. Now, I know this is kind of a pain because your bags will begin to fill up rather quickly if you loot everything like a good little hero. So if you don't want to turn it off but still want to save these, you can just make sure to visit your bank or guild bank to store these before speaking to a vendor. But that could be risky, so be careful. Tip 2. Store them safely. Of course, these items have to be held somewhere physically, as they cannot simply be learned until the patch comes. And that is going to add up quick. Look, my poor guild bank is already suffering and becoming atrocious because of it, so I've got to deal with this better. While I do recommend a personal guild bank for situations like this, it does have limited space, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assign specific alts to become transmog holders. Each alt can have a personal bank, no matter what level they are, that can be equipped with the largest slot bags you can buy. And unless you collect stuff on all of your alts, it's possible that this space is already clear and open. So what I'm going to do here is stuff an alts bank with all this gear until it's full, and then do so with another alts bank, and so on. It's safer this way too, since I won't get in the way of my frequently used guild bank. And if you don't have alts to do this with, their level doesn't matter, so you can just make some temporary ones if you want. Tip 3. Store matching armor types. I have another tip, and also a concern, on this storage topic too, before we move on here. I'm not sure if these items, many of which are currently unbound, are going to become soulbound when the patch hits. So any gear that is marked with an armor type, I am making sure to store on an alt with a matching armor type to make sure that I can learn it if this happens. I'm a very just-in-case person, and that gut feeling has often saved me, so I highly recommend you do this too. I would really hate to store up all this nifty gear just to find that I can't learn it because of my armor type. Not cool. Tip 4. Loot everything. So that's how you can save and store these, but how do you find this stuff in the first place? Well, it's easier than you think. Like I suggest in the first tip of turning off your auto vendor, you'll come across them during your normal play just from looting everything. Even in current content, though it is less common, there is some neat, poor, and common quality gear that will pop up into your bags while you do world quests, or dungeons, or whatever you're doing, so long as you make sure to loot everything you see. Tip 5. Auction House Filter. If you don't get out into the world much, or want to go above and beyond the slow trickle of gear, you can actually also find filter options for poor and common gear specifically already on the auction house. A lot of this stuff is fairly cheap right now, of course depending on your server, so now is the time to buy them before the prices will likely explode in 925 when players are scrambling to collect. And of course, you'll need to keep track of what you buy fairly manually since you can't learn it yet. But with the aid of add-ons like Altaholic and Bagnon, you can see if you already have that item on an alt in your tooltips. Tip number 6. Low-level quests. And, like I already mentioned, there are soul-bound versions of this low-quality gear, some of which may be more unique because of it. And, since they're soulbound, that means you can't buy them. A lot of the soulbound ones that I've seen seem to come from very low-level quest areas like Northshire and Elman Forest, or Sunstrider Isle and Eversong Woods, etc. Any zone that low-level or even fresh alts would normally be questing through, such as all the level 1 to 10 zones, will reward this gear from their quests. You can do this on max-level alts as well, so there's no worry about that there. However, whether you want to do these quests now or after patch 925 is up to you, since these quests are likely not going anywhere, but there is also a quirk you need to be aware of. Currently, when you learn Transmog from a quest, you learn all of the appearances that your class can learn even if you did not choose that item. Quests often have you choose your reward, but in the case of Transmog, it doesn't matter. However, we cannot currently learn gray and white gear because the patch isn't out yet, so my concern here is that I do not know if the gear you did not pick will be learned retroactively when the patch launches. If it is not, you may have to go back and do all those quests again on an alt. And on top of it, most of this is soulbound gear, and is armor specific, so you'll need to quest with more than one characters anyways. Concerns aside, that is all the tips I have for you on this subject. Do you have anything to add? Any ideas or specific gear that you think looks really cool and that we collectors should start farming for now? Let me know in the comments, and happy transmogging, everyone! And there we have it. If you think I've missed information or you want to request I do a specific guide, let me know in the comments below. Even if I don't answer you, I just might add your idea to my list. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.